In the 11th chapter of St. Paul's epistle, letter to the Romans, he says something profound and worthy of prolonged, lifelong meditation. He says, "For the gifts and the call of God are irrevocable. Just as you once disobeyed God, but have now received mercy because of their disobedience, so they have now disobeyed in order that by virtue of the mercy shown to you, they too may now receive mercy. For God delivered all to disobedience, that he might have mercy upon all." St. Paul today emphasizes in this second reading the irrevocability, the permanence, the surety of the gifts of God, of his divine calling to us. And this is quite significant because it reminds us to remember that the gospel message, the good news of Jesus, is dependent upon Jesus. It's dependent upon God. Therefore, it depends upon, it's built upon, it's sustained by the reality of God. And God never changes his mind. He has no shadow of turning. He suffers no motion, no development. No one instructs him. No one changes him. No one modifies God. And our God, very important, is a loving and wise God. And so the economy of salvation, which is just a fancy way to say what God has done in order to save us, is sure. It is certain. It is reliable, and it is guaranteed. Nothing that you nor I, nothing that we can do can undermine, compromise the mercy, the grace, the wisdom, the love of God. Not even error can change God. Not even sin can change God. No privations, no human contingent deprivations, defects can frustrate the wisdom, the structure, the order of divine providence, of predestination, of divine mercy, of divine love. Why is this so significant? It is significant because we are real, contingent, temporal, not self-existent, but real, contingent, real beings who do things, who have existence, and who can make mistakes, can defect from truth and goodness, who can err cognitively, intellectually, who can act in disordered way, yes, but because of our contingency, because of our inherent fragility, nothing that a contingent or a fragile being does or can do can modify, change, or frustrate the designs of God's wise and loving providence. Therefore, as St. Paul says, even those things that are defective, privational, privative, absent of do-goods, disordered things, those aren't outside of God's providence. There is no part, no place, no infinitesimal point of our being and of our action which is beyond or outside of, excluded from, quarantined away from God's loving plan. His gifts and his call are irrevocable. Therefore, let us wake up every morning and recall every midday and meditate upon every evening as we drift off to sleep upon the fact that God is sure and certain and self-existent and absolute, not subject to any change, frustration, compromisation. And let us then take great consolation, even contingent though we are, even though fragile that we may be, even though disordered that we might suffer, disorders we might suffer. Nothing that we do or are can frustrate or compromise the surety of the divine call, the power of divine grace, the wisdom and love of God himself. We live in this surety because we live in the truth of God. And therefore, there is no room for despair, for giving up, for regret perhaps for a moment, but ultimately regret seeds to hope in the goodness of God. Our God is a good God, and he loves us, and he gives himself to us with irrevocable power, wisdom, and mercy.